This is News Scene 7 at 6 with Arkansas's most respected television journalist, Steve Barnes, Satellite 7 weather, Jim Menard, and Arkansas's Sportscaster of the Year, Paul Eels. News Scene 7, an Arkansas tradition, now in its 29th year.
Good evening, everyone. The Wonder State spent much of today trying to keep from drowning. Massive rains that poured billions of gallons onto already drenched soil flooded wide areas, and evacuations had to be carried out in a number of communities. And there was another tornado, this one at East Camden, but its damage seemed minor compared to yesterday's devastation. The death toll from storms the past 2 days remains at 3, but scores have been injured. Many are homeless, and an already ravaged Arkansas economy must now deal with massive injury to business. We have a number of reports tonight, beginning with Amy Oliver at Clinton.
The South Fork of the Little Red River began rushing over its banks late yesterday, and by this morning it had swallowed most of downtown Clinton. The only way to travel Main Street now is by boat, and only small sections of businesses are visible.
It started coming up last night about 8:30, and we had our county crews working and hauling sand, hoping that we could stop it, but it just kept coming. We put out a good effort, but it just overcame us.
Authorities began evacuating residents last night and took about 50 to local churches. Some were waiting today to get any word they could on their property or what was left of it. Many residents were able to stay with their belongings, though the water left them virtually isolated. There is still electricity, but phone lines are underwater, and there is only radio communication for emergency vehicles. There is no water because of low pressure, and even if pressure were restored, there's concern for contamination. There is one fatality that authorities are sure of. They say an elderly man driving a car plunged through a roadblock on Highway 65 today, and they say the owner in the car disappeared before they could rescue him. Several other cars have been seen floating, and police are still trying to place their owners. To avoid any more accidents, police and National Guard units have set up roadblocks at several points along the highway leading into Clinton, and only a few are allowed in. A local cafe has been converted to a command post where National Guardsmen and state and local police are coordinating their efforts. Guardsmen were checking rumors of looting today, but doubted that there was anything left worth stealing. Already there is talk of what the businessmen and homeowners can do to recover their losses. Many suspect that they don't have coverage. They know this was the worst possible time of the year for this to happen.
One of the biggest inventories we've had in a long time for Christmas, and everybody's left them there to pick up, right before Christmas. So we was real heavy in inventory for this time of year.
Word of the disaster and initial damage assessments have been carried to the governor, and there's hope that federal aid will be available. Is there any way to assess the kind of damage that you have here?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's, I couldn't even guess, really.
Can Clinton recover from something like this?
Oh, yes. Yes. But it'll take time. We'll make it.
The Van Buren County seat doesn't know when it will be able to see its buildings again, nor does it know what to expect when it does. It's dealt with flooding before, but that was 3 or 4 decades ago, and only 1 or 2 feet. This time it's 10, maybe deeper, and there's nothing to do but salvage what part of the town they can as it floats by. Amy Oliver, News Scene 7, Clinton.
Perched on the edge of Lake Dardanelle, Russellville watched water levels rise steadily until boats had to be dispatched, much as patrol cars. News Scene's Tanya Bean spent the day in Pope County and has an assessment of the damage at Russellville.
Just east of Atkins, a swollen creek forced even 18-wheelers to slow down. The convoys turned 3 inches of overflow into waves, but Interstate 40 was at least passable today. Normally peaceful streams in the foothills were transformed into rapids as hard rains returned this morning. North of Hector, the Pope County Marine Rescue Unit was dispatched to save a family unexpectedly marooned in a low-lying area. Once the Illinois Bayou left its banks, one resident said, it rose 3 feet in 45 minutes. 3 local boatmen lost control in the swift current. They weren't even halfway to the house when they ran into trouble, and there were times when Melvin Jackson and his crew wondered if they'd be luckier.
Back up, Ken, we're taking water. Back it off.
The water wasn't deep enough to motor within 200 feet of the house, so Jackson went in alone.
Oh,
The first 3 children of the Bob Story family were brought out individually. The Marine Rescue Unit had thought only 2 people were stranded. It took over an hour to transport all 5 to higher ground. Then the rescue boat and another brought in the threesome who had been counting on the trees to keep them from being swept away.
We got them both tied there to the trees and that deal where we think they'll stay until it goes down and then get them out.
How long have you been out there?
Oh, I imagine I've been up there probably an hour, but there's a couple of other fellows have been up there for, I guess, 3-4 hours. They shared a pin and they wound up in those trees, and I went in to get them. We drove through with the vehicles about 8:30 this morning, no trouble. Several of them around here are older than I am that I'm sure they'll tell you this is the highest they've ever seen it.
Just above Dover, a rancher lost several cattle and horses when the Illinois Bayou swelled into his pastures and then overran normally scenic Highway 7, cutting off that access to all but weighty military vehicles. Pope County Sheriff's deputies and auxiliary members were hard-pressed to blockade all the dangerous passages. All available personnel worked through the night and weren't happy to hear more rain would arrive at sundown. Tanya Bean, UScene 7 in Pope County.
Ouachita County had more than rain to cope with today. The storm system that covered Arkansas produced a tornado which touched down at East Camden. We have a report from John Shrewsbury.
The tornado cut a wide swath through the industrial community of East Camden, injuring one woman and causing thousands of dollars property damage. The storm hit about 8:30 this morning, demolishing the city hall and fire station. Civil Defense said at least 30 homes were damaged in East Camden alone, and dozens of others were torn apart in the outlying rural areas. A large industrial park escaped the brunt of the storm. Trees fell across vehicles and roadways, and traffic came to a near standstill. Ouachita County officials made an early assessment of the damage.
We've surveyed the area. We've got 30 houses with structural damage. We've got 3 completely destroyed, 1 mobile home destroyed, and 6 cars.
Have there been any injuries or deaths?
We've had 2 injuries, no deaths.
In addition, the roof of an apartment complex was blown off. Many residents are homeless tonight and will seek shelter at local disaster centers. The mayor of East Camden has placed a 5 p.m. curfew on the community in an attempt to prevent looting. There were reports of looters near the Arkansas Fire Training Academy earlier in the day. John Shrewsbury for News Scene 7, East Camden.
News Scene 7 at 6 is brought to you by Davidson's Home Furnishing Centers, 555 Appliance Distributors Incorporated, Arkansas Louisiana Gas Company, and Archie House Shoe Stores.